Hey warriors, someone disrespects you in public. Your blood boils, your fists clench. You're about to unleash hell. And that's exactly when you've already lost. See, most people never learn this, but the person who loses their cool always loses the game. Always, and I'm about to show you why everything you thought about standing up for yourself was actually making you weaker. Look, I get it. You've been told your whole life that you don't back down, that if someone crosses you, you handle it immediately. You make them regret it. Beautiful theory, terrible strategy. Because while you're out here getting triggered by every insult, every dirty look, every petty comment, there's another breed of people who are moving through life completely unbothered, untouchable. And they're not tougher than you. They're smarter. Machiavelli understood something 500 years ago that most people still haven't figured out today. The person who controls their emotions controls the room. The person who controls the room controls the outcome. And the person who controls the outcome, they control their entire life. This isn't about being soft. This isn't about letting people walk all over you. This is about understanding that you're playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers. And in chess, the impulsive player gets destroyed every single time. Here's what nobody tells you. When someone provokes you, they're not attacking you. They're testing you. They want to see if you're controllable. If you react, you just proved you are. You handed them your remote control and said, "Here, push my buttons whenever you want." Pathetic, right? But here's the good news. Once you understand the game, and trust me, it is a game, you become virtually immune to manipulation. Insults bounce off you. Disrespect doesn't register. Drama happens around you, not to you. Today I'm breaking down 8 principles that will transform you from a reactive person into a strategic powerhouse. These aren't feel-good affirmations. This is practical psychology backed by centuries of observation about how power actually works. By the end of this video, you'll understand why silence is more devastating than any comeback, why the person who stays calm always wins, and why emotional mastery isn't just a nice skill to have. It's the foundation of every form of power you'll ever possess. So, if you're tired of getting played, tired of losing your composure, tired of giving your power away to people who don't deserve a second of your attention, you're in the right place. Before we begin, I want you to drop this affirmation in the comments. I control my emotions. Let's get into it. Number 1, the illusion of anger as power. Let's start with the biggest lie you've ever been sold. That anger makes you powerful. You see someone getting loud, throwing things, going off on people, and what do you think? Wow, they're not someone to mess with. Wrong. What you're actually watching is someone who's completely out of control. And if they're out of control, they're predictable. And if they're predictable, they're weak. Think about it. When you get angry, what happens? Your heart rate spikes, your vision narrows, your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain that thinks strategically, basically shuts down. You become a caveman with a smartphone. You're operating on pure impulse. An impulse is the enemy of intelligence. Here's the brutal truth. Anger is a leash. The moment you lose your temper, someone else is holding that leash. They pulled it, you barked, and now they know exactly how to control you. Congratulations, you just became their puppet. Society glorifies this, especially in movies. The hero gets mad, snaps, and destroys everyone. Feels good to watch, doesn't it? But that's entertainment, not reality. In real life, the person who explodes is the person who gets fired, arrested, divorced, or manipulated into destroying their own life. Machiavelli knew this. He watched princes lose kingdoms because they couldn't control their rage. He saw generals lose battles because one insult sent them charging into obvious traps. The pattern was clear. Emotional reaction equals strategic suicide. Now, I'm not saying you should never feel anger. You're human, not a robot. Anger is a natural response to injustice, disrespect, or threat. But here's the difference between amateurs and masters. Amateurs are controlled by their anger. Masters use their anger as information, then choose their response strategically. There's a massive difference between feeling an emotion and being controlled by it. You can acknowledge that you're angry, sit with that feeling, understand where it's coming from, and then decide consciously what to do next. That pause between feeling and action, that's where your power lies. That's the space where transformation happens. Most people skip that pause entirely. They go straight from trigger to explosion. Zero thought, zero strategy, pure reaction. And every single time they do this, they hand their power to whoever pushed their buttons. Because here's what most people don't understand. Real power is quiet. Real power doesn't need to prove itself. Real power sits back, observes, calculates, and strikes when victory is guaranteed, not when emotions are high. The moment you master your anger, you stop being reactive and start being dangerous. And I mean that in the best possible way. You become someone who operates from choice, not impulse. Someone who thinks 3 steps ahead while everyone else is stuck on step 1. Someone who wins because they never lost control in the first place. Drop this affirmation in the comments. Anger serves me, not controls me. Number 2, understanding human nature. Here's something that'll change your entire perspective. Most people who disrespect you aren't doing it because you did anything wrong. They're doing it because they're afraid. Wild, right? But stay with me. The world is a psychological battlefield, and most people are fighting battles you can't even see. They're insecure about their job, their relationship, their status, their future. They're terrified of being exposed as inadequate. So what do? They try to pull you down to make themselves feel taller. Every insult is a confession. When someone attacks your intelligence, they're insecure about theirs. When they mock your ambitions, they're angry at themselves for giving up on their own. When they disrespect you for no reason, they're desperate to feel powerful because they feel powerless everywhere else. Once you understand this, the game changes completely. You stop taking things personally because you realize it was never about you. You start seeing behavior as a symptom of internal chaos rather than an accurate assessment of your worth. And that perspective shift is everything. This is what Machiavelli meant when he talked about understanding human nature. People operate on fear and self-interest always. And if you can see past the surface behavior to the underlying motivation, you become almost impossible to manipulate. Let me break down the 3 types of provocators you'll encounter. Type 1, the threatened. These people see you as competition. Your success makes them feel inadequate, so they try to sabotage you or diminish your wins. Their disrespect is actually a compliment. You're doing something right. They wouldn't bother attacking you if you weren't a threat to their ego or position. Type 2, the attention seeker. These people provoke you because they're invisible otherwise. They'd rather be hated than ignored. Your reaction is their validation that they matter. Don't give it to them. The moment you engage, you fed exactly what they're starving for. Type 3, the unconscious reactor. These people are just miserable and spreading it around like a virus. They're not strategic, they're just wounded. They lash out because they're in pain. They're not trying to destroy you specifically. You just happen to be in their blast radius. Here's the key. None of these people deserve your emotional energy. Not one. They're all operating from deficit, from lack, from fear. And you don't have to participate in their dysfunction. When you understand that most human behavior is just fear, wearing different masks, you stop reacting and start observing. You become a psychologist instead of a participant. You watch the patterns, understand the motivations, and respond. If you respond at all from a position of complete clarity, this is the game. And now that you know the rules, you can finally start winning. I want you to drop this affirmation in the comments. I see through the masks. Number 3, the Mask of Indifference. Want to know the most powerful weapon in psychological warfare? It's not aggression. It's not intimidation. It's not even intelligence. It's indifference. Let me explain. When someone attacks you and you show no reaction, nothing, you create a psychological void that absolutely destroys them. They threw their best punch and you didn't even blink. Now they're confused, frustrated, desperate, and desperation makes people sloppy. This is what I call the Mask of Indifference. It's not about actually being indifferent. You can feel whatever you want on the inside. It's about controlling what the outside world sees. Because in the game of power, perception is everything. Think about the people who intimidate you most. Are they the loud ones who explode at everything? No, it's the calm ones, the ones who never seem bothered, the ones you can't read. There's something unsettling about someone who doesn't react, isn't there? It's because unpredictability creates respect and sometimes fear. Here's why the mask works so well. Humans are wired to seek reactions. When we communicate, we're constantly scanning for feedback. Did my words land? Are they upset, angry, hurt? When you give nothing, you break their feedback loop. They're operating blind, and people hate operating blind. You give them no data to work with, no emotional tells, no verbal confirmation that their attack succeeded, just blank space, and that blank space becomes a mirror that reflects their own dysfunction back at them. They start questioning themselves. Did I not hit hard enough? Do they not care? Am I not important enough to affect them? That's the power of the mask. It flips the entire dynamic. Suddenly, the person trying to provoke you looks unstable and desperate while you look composed and powerful. You didn't have to say a word. You just had to show nothing. Now, I'm not saying you should never show emotion. That would make you robotic and disconnected. But when it comes to provocations, insults, and psychological games, emotional neutrality is your shield and your sword. The Mask of Indifference says, you don't have the power to affect me. I'm operating on a level you can't reach. And that message delivered silently through your complete lack of reaction is more devastating than any insult you could throw back. It communicates something profound. You're simply not significant enough in my world to warrant an emotional response. And nothing, absolutely nothing, diminishes someone's power faster than being treated as irrelevant. Practice this, master this. Because once you can control your face and body language under pressure, you become genuinely dangerous. Not because you're aggressive, but because you're unreadable, and unreadable equals unpredictable, and unpredictable equals powerful. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I am unbothered. Number 4. The power of strategic silence. Silence makes people uncomfortable, and discomfort makes people reveal themselves. You probably experienced this. Someone says something provocative expecting you to react. Instead, you just stare. 5 seconds, 10 seconds. The silence stretches and suddenly they're backtracking, explaining, filling the void with nervous chatter. They just exposed their hand, and you didn't say a single word. This is strategic silence, and it's one of the most underrated forms of power. Here's why it works. In conversation, whoever speaks first after a provocation is usually the weaker party. They're the one who couldn't handle the tension. They broke first. But when you embrace the silence, when you sit in it comfortably while others squirm, you radiate a kind of dominance that words can't match. Silence also protects you. Every time you speak, you give people ammunition. They can twist your words, quote you out of context, find something to attack. But silence gives them nothing. They're shadow boxing, and it's exhausting to fight an opponent who won't engage. Machiavelli understood this perfectly. He watched leaders who talk too much reveal their strategies, insecurities, and weaknesses. Meanwhile, the quiet ones kept everyone guessing. Uncertainty is uncomfortable, and uncomfortable people make mistakes. There's tremendous power in withholding. In our culture, we're taught that silence equals agreement or weakness or stupidity. That you need to defend yourself immediately or people will assume the worst. But that's manipulation designed to keep you talking, explaining, justifying yourself. Don't fall for it. Strategic silence operates on multiple levels simultaneously. On the surface, it's refusal to engage. Deeper, it's active observation. You're watching how people behave when you don't give them the reaction they're fishing for. Even deeper, it's a statement of self-worth. I don't owe you an explanation. I don't need to defend myself to you. Your opinion doesn't require my response. Here's the thing about strategic silence. It's not passive. It's active restraint. It's choosing not to engage because you're smart enough to know that some battles are won by refusing to fight. It's understanding that sometimes your lack of response is the most powerful response possible. People mistake silence for weakness because we live in a culture that glorifies constant talking, constant reacting, constant engagement. But the truly powerful know better. They know that silence is where strength lies. That restraint requires more discipline than reaction. That the pause before you speak is often more impactful than anything you could say. Silence is also a filter. It separates people who deserve your energy from people who don't. If someone can't handle your silence, if they get more aggressive, more desperate, more unhinged, they just revealed exactly who they are, and now you know to exclude them from your life entirely. Master the pause, own the silence. Watch what happens. Drop this affirmation in the comments. My silence is power. Now let's talk about the deeper issue. Why you even care about these provocations in the first place. Number 5, detachment from approval. Here's an uncomfortable truth. If someone can provoke you, it's because you need something from them. Approval, validation, respect, recognition, something. And that need, that's your weakness. Think about it. When a random stranger insults you on the internet, do you lose sleep? Probably not. But when it's your boss, your family, your peers, suddenly it stings. Why? Because you value their opinion, you need their approval. And that need gives them power over you. This is the trap most people never escape. They spend their entire lives performing for an audience, desperately seeking validation from others. And the problem with external validation is that it's a game you can never win. There's always someone to impress, always someone whose approval you're chasing, always someone who can withdraw that validation and watch you crumble. Machiavelli would call this being a slave, not in the literal sense, but in the psychological sense. If your peace of mind depends on other people's opinions, you're not free. You're controlled. And control means you're predictable, which means you're weak. Here's the shift that changes everything. Detachment from approval doesn't mean you don't care about anything. It means you stop outsourcing your self-worth to people who didn't give it to you in the first place. Your value isn't determined by whether someone respects you. Your worth isn't based on whether people like you. Your identity isn't shaped by external validation. These things are determined internally by your own standards, your own values, your own assessment of who you are and what you're building. When you internalize this, really internalize it, something incredible happens. Insults stop landing. Disrespect becomes irrelevant. Someone can mock you, dismiss you, try to diminish you, and you feel nothing because their opinion literally doesn't matter to your internal scorecard. Now, I'm not saying become a psychopath who cares about nobody. Healthy relationships involve mutual respect and care. But there's a massive difference between valuing someone's perspective and needing their approval to feel okay about yourself. Let me ask you something. What would change in your life if you genuinely didn't need anyone's approval? How differently would you move? What risks would you take? What would you stop tolerating? Who would you stop trying to impress? The answer to those questions reveals how much of your life is currently being controlled by the opinions of others. And I'm willing to bet it's more than you want to admit. Detachment from approval is freedom. It's walking into any room knowing that, whether people like you or hate you, respect you or dismiss you, you'll be absolutely fine because you're not there for their validation. You're there for your purpose. Once you achieve this level of detachment, you become nearly impossible to manipulate, and that's when real power begins. I want you to drop this affirmation in the comments. I validate myself. Number 6, mastering the inner kingdom. Let's get real for a second. You can learn all the tactics, all the strategies, all the psychological tricks in the world, but if you can't control yourself, none of it matters. This is what Machiavelli really understood. Before you can govern others, you must govern yourself. Before you can control situations, you must control your reactions. Before you can master the external world, you must master your inner kingdom. Your inner kingdom is your thoughts, emotions, impulses, and urges. It's the mental and emotional space inside you where reactions are born. And for most people, this kingdom is in complete chaos. Random thoughts control them. Emotions hijack them. Impulses drive them. They're not ruling their kingdom. They're being ruled by it. Here's the hard truth. Nobody can make you feel anything. I know that sounds wrong because we're taught that people make us angry or make us upset. But that's a lie. People do things and then you choose consciously or unconsciously how to respond. That choice is where your power lies. Mastering your inner kingdom means developing the discipline to choose your responses instead of being controlled by automatic reactions. It means creating space between stimulus and response. Someone insults you. That's the stimulus. But before you react, there's a gap, a moment. And in that moment, you have the power to choose. Most people never access that gap. They're on autopilot, reacting based on conditioning from childhood, past, trauma, insecurity, or just habit. But when you practice self-mastery, you widen that gap. You create room to think, to choose, to respond strategically instead of emotionally. This requires brutal honesty with yourself. You have to ask uncomfortable questions. Why did that comment bother me so much? What insecurity is it touching? Why do I need to prove myself to this person? What am I actually afraid of? These questions aren't fun to answer. They force you to confront parts of yourself you'd rather ignore. But this confrontation is essential because you can't master what you refuse to acknowledge. You can't control reactions rooted in wounds you won't examine. Self-mastery isn't about suppressing emotions. That's repression and it backfires. It's about acknowledging emotions, understanding where they come from, and then deciding whether acting on them serves your goals or sabotages them. The person who masters their inner kingdom becomes formidable. They're not tossed around by circumstances. They're not controlled by other people's behavior. They're stable, centered, and focused regardless of external chaos. This is the foundation of everything. Without self-mastery, you're just learning tricks. With self-mastery, you're building genuine power that no one can take from you. You become the eye of the storm, calm, clear, and unshaken while chaos swirls around you. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I rule my kingdom. Number 7, playing the long game. Revenge is a dish best served cold. You've heard that phrase, right? But do you understand why it's true? Because hot revenge, immediate, emotional, impulsive revenge feels satisfying for about 5 minutes. Then you deal with the consequences. The ruined relationships, the damaged reputation, the legal trouble, the escalating conflict. Feels stupid in hindsight, doesn't it? Cold revenge, strategic revenge. That's a completely different game. That's when you wait, you watch, you gather information, you position yourself, and when the moment is perfect, you move with precision, and your opponent never even sees it coming. This is playing the long game, and it's how real power operates. Most people are trapped in short-term thinking. Someone disrespects them, they need to respond immediately. Someone wrongs them, they need revenge now. But immediate gratification is the enemy of strategic victory, because when you react in the moment, you're operating from emotion, and emotion makes you sloppy. Machiavelli studied leaders who won and leaders who lost. The pattern was clear. The patient ones won. The impulsive ones destroyed themselves. Time was a weapon that only the disciplined knew how to use. Playing the long game means understanding that some victories take months or years to materialize. It means being comfortable with delayed gratification. It means trusting the process even when you can't see immediate results. And most importantly, it means having the discipline to wait for the right moment instead of forcing the wrong one. There's tremendous power in patience. While everyone else is scrambling for immediate results, immediate responses, immediate everything, you're playing a different game entirely. You're thinking in timelines measured in quarters and years, not days and weeks. And that perspective gives you advantages others can't even comprehend. Sometimes the best revenge is no revenge at all, just allowing time to reveal what you already know. That person will self-destruct. They always do. Because people who operate from manipulation, impulsiveness, and dishonesty eventually collapse under the weight of their own chaos. You don't need to do anything. Just step back and watch. Playing the long game requires patience, discipline, and a strong enough sense of self that you don't need immediate validation. It requires trusting that excellence compounds, that character reveals itself, and that strategic positioning beats impulsive reaction every single time. This doesn't mean you never take action. It means you take action when it's most effective, not when your emotions are screaming at you to do something. It means you control the timing rather than letting the timing control you. The long game is where masters operate. Amateurs play for the moment, masters play for the outcome, and outcomes, real, lasting, meaningful outcomes, take time. Number 8, becoming untouchable. You've learned the principles. You understand the game. Now comes the transformation. Becoming untouchable doesn't mean you're arrogant or disconnected. It means you've built something inside yourself that's so solid, so grounded, so unshakable that external chaos can't destabilize you. Think about a massive oak tree during a storm. The wind howls, the rain pounds, branches might break, but the trunk, the roots completely unmoved. That's what you're building. Not rigidity, flexibility, not hardness, resilience, not coldness, composure. The untouchable person walks into any environment with quiet confidence. They don't need to announce their power because it's self-evident. They don't need to defend their reputation because their actions speak. They don't need to react to provocations because they're operating on a level most people can't comprehend. Here's what had to die for you to become this person: the ego that needed to be right, the insecurity that needed validation, the pride that demanded respect, the anger that demanded revenge, the fear that demanded approval, all of that dead weight. And when you let it go, you become light, fast, deadly efficient. Being untouchable means you've transcended the petty games that consume most people's lives. You're not competing for validation. You're not fighting for respect. You're not scrambling for approval. You're just moving forward with clarity and purpose, completely unbothered by the noise around you. This state isn't achieved overnight. It's built through consistent practice of everything we've discussed. Every time you choose silence over reaction, you're building it. Every time you refuse to need someone's approval, you're strengthening it. Every time you master an emotional impulse, you're fortifying it. And here's the beautiful part. Once you become this person, you don't need these principles anymore. They're not rules you follow. They're who you are. Emotional mastery becomes automatic. Strategic thinking becomes default. Psychological dominance becomes natural. You're not pretending to be unbothered. You genuinely are. You're not faking confidence. You have it. You're not playing a character. You've become the master of your inner and outer world. People will notice this shift. Some will respect it. Some will fear it. Some will be confused by it. None of that matters, because you're not building this for their approval. You're building it for your freedom. Being untouchable means you've removed all the hooks people use to control others. No emotional buttons to push, no insecurities to exploit, no need for validation to leverage. You're a fortress, and fortresses don't fall to petty attacks. This is the promise Machiavelli made 500 years ago. Master yourself and the world bends around you. Now I want you to drop this affirmation in the comments. I am untouchable. So there it is. 8 principles that separate the reactive from the strategic, the controlled from the controllers, the amateurs from the masters. Let me ask you something. Which person are you right now? Be honest. Are you the one getting triggered by comments, losing sleep over disrespect, letting other people's opinions control your mood? Or are you the one moving through life calm, focused, and completely unbothered by the noise? Because here's the reality. You can't be both. You're either building emotional mastery or you're being controlled by your emotions. You're either playing the long game or you're trapped in short-term reactions. You're either becoming untouchable or you're staying vulnerable. The choice is yours. But understand this: transformation doesn't happen by accident. It happens through conscious decision and consistent practice. You have to actively choose to stop reacting, to start observing, to master your inner kingdom, to play strategically instead of emotionally. This isn't a one-time decision, it's a daily commitment. Every time you feel that surge of anger, that's your test. Every time someone tries to provoke you, that's your opportunity to practice the mask. Every time you want immediate revenge, that's when you remember the long game. You're joining something bigger here, a brotherhood and sisterhood of people who refuse to be controlled, who understand that real power is quiet, strategic, and rooted in self-mastery. People who've decided that emotional reactivity is beneath them. If this video shifted something in you, hit that like button and subscribe to this channel. We're building a team of strategic thinkers, and you need to be part of it. And share this video with someone who needs it. You know, someone who's constantly getting provoked, constantly reacting, constantly giving their power away. Send them this. It might change their life. Now go out there and prove it. The world is waiting for the strategic version of you.